Welcome to Math Plus, where math makes sense. In this video, we're going to be learning how to find the number pattern in math. Not only will we learn how to find that pattern, we're also going to learn why we have number patterns in the first place. Why do we need them? How do we use them in life? We'll cover all of that in this video. So what is a pattern? Usually when we think of patterns, we think of looking at maybe a design on one of our pieces of clothing. It could be on your dress or your shirt, a skirt. It could be on the curtains in your house. It could be on the shower curtain in the bathroom. Look at your carpet. These are patterns, but these are the types of patterns that involve different shapes and different colors. And we can have patterns in math. Now you might say, well, why do we even need that? We'll go over that in just a moment. Let's first of all see what a pattern in math looks like. Here we have a pattern, 3, 6, 12, 24. There's something in there. There's a rule that tells me what that number can be on that blank line. The first thing I want to do is take the first two numbers in the pattern and see what happened to make that 3 become 6. Now, some of you are shouting out, it's a plus 3. I added 3. 3 plus 3 is 6, and that's true. That works. But 3 times 2 also works. So now we have to test the pattern on the next number. How did I get from 6 to 12? Well, if I use my first pattern, plus 3, that doesn't work. 6 plus 3 is 9. That pattern doesn't work. The next one was times 2. Does 6 times 2 equal 12? Yes, it does. So it works. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. So that helped me. Understanding the pattern helped me to fill in the next step. Now, if I didn't know anything about patterns, I would be sitting here going, I have no idea what number goes there. I don't know. But knowing the pattern helps you to get that next number correctly. Let's look at a number line that has a pattern. For me to go from 5 to 15, I could add 10. I can also multiply 5 times 3 and get that number 15. Now let's go to the next step in our pattern. The next one is 25. Or can I multiply 15 times 3 and get 25? No. Multiplying by 3 does not work. However, I can add 10 to 15 and I do get 25. 25 plus 10 is 35. 35 plus 10 is 45. So you see how that pattern works all the way up here to 65. When we're working with numbers and we're trying to find the pattern, we want to figure out what's the rule. So why do we use patterns in math? And here are 4 different examples. You can, by making predictions, knowing a rule lets you guess future numbers without starting from 0. So it's kind of like what we were doing. We were making a prediction by learning the rule, and then we can make a prediction. Let's say that every 3 hours, the temperature is going to rise on this machine as I'm working it by 5 degrees, and I have to make sure it doesn't go over a certain temperature. So I can make a prediction of possibly when that might happen by knowing that pattern. So machinery and not overheating would be a good example. It saves time. Instead of doing every single math step, a pattern gives us a shortcut. We didn't have to sit there and keep adding. We just used that rule, plus 3 times 2, and it helped us to get there faster. It builds your math skills. Patterns form the base for multiplication, fractions, and algebra. So it helps us with our skills, and we get to solve real problems. Scientists and banks use number patterns to track money growth, weather, and space. If you ever heard about of anybody investing money, they might say you're going to earn 12% every year. Then that person can predict what my money will look like by following the pattern. Here's an easy rule. Now, I just went over what rules look like. You can pause the video and go ahead and figure this out, or just watch me solve it. So every pattern has a rule. So we went 5, 10, 15. I think we're counting by 5s. So 15, 20. So in this pattern, I'm counting by 5s, or I add 5, right? Each time I add 5, that's my rule. And the next number would be 25 and then 30. That was an easy one, but you can see there has to be a rule in that pattern so you can figure it out. Now, I want to caution you on something. Sometimes you're filling in the numbers in the middle, right, of these. I have 2, 4, and 12. There's a pattern. If you looked at this right away, you might say 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm just going to multiply by 2. And then you just say that's my pattern. Well, let's test it first. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 times 2 is 32. 32 times 2 is not 12. The reason I showed this is I want to caution you to go too quickly. Don't go too quickly and say, I know what that is, because another pattern, just like I showed you before, it could also be plus 2, right? 2 plus 2 is 4. And then you're going to find every time I add 2, I'm counting by 2s, I'm adding 2, and the 12 helps solidify that this is the right answer. So don't jump to conclusions. Math is like being a detective. You need to make sure you look at the whole picture and not just jump in and say, that was the answer. A lot of times we do that because we're in a rush. All right, these are some other patterns as well. Sometimes you can have what we call a repeating pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's just a repeating pattern. We're not adding anything, we're not subtracting anything or multiplying or dividing, but that works. Here we just have a simple pattern. Minus 2. 14 minus 2 is 12. 12 minus 2 is 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. And 6 minus 2 is 4. See how that worked out all the way across. Also, as you do your math and you start getting a little bit more complicated, some patterns or some sequences or patterns have 2 rules. Here we have plus 2 minus 1. So 8 plus 2 is 10. That's a plus. Minus 1 is 9. And so I got to do it again. Plus 2 is 11. Minus 1 is 10. I wanted to show this to you because sometimes patterns will have 2 rules or 2 steps. So watch out for that as well. I hope you enjoyed figuring out patterns with numbers. We'll see you on the next video.